authority. I'm not ashamed, I won't be afraid. I gotta let it out, I've got a praise that will break off heavy chains. I've got a song that makes hell begin to shake. I've got a shout that brings dead men from their graves. I gotta let it out, I gotta let it out, I gotta let it out. Why would I need man's permission when you're calling me to live wild and free? Why would I need man's religion when your spirit's living inside of me? I'm not ashamed, I won't be afraid. I gotta let it out, I've got a praise that will break off heavy chains. I've got a song that makes hell begin to shake. I've got a shout that brings dead men from their graves. I gotta let it out, I gotta let it out. It's like a fire that's shut up in my bones. It's like a passion that's burning in my soul. It's running wild and I'm losing all control. I gotta let it out, I gotta let it out, I gotta let it out. I'm gonna sing till I have no voice. Even then I'm gonna make some noise. I don't care what people say, I'm gonna praise you anyway. I'm gonna sing till I have no voice. Even then I'm gonna make some noise. I don't care what people say, I'm gonna praise you. Sing it again. Hey! I'm gonna sing till I have no voice. Even then I'm gonna make some noise. I don't care what people say, I'm gonna praise you. Sing it again. Hey! I'm gonna sing till I have no voice. Even then I'm gonna make some noise. I don't care what people say, I'm gonna praise you. Sing it again. Hey! I'm gonna sing till I have no voice. Even then I'm gonna make some noise. I don't care what people say, I'm gonna praise you anyway. I've got a praise that will break off heavy chains. I've got a song that makes hell begin to shake. I've got a shout that brings dead men from their graves. I gotta let it out, I gotta let it out. It's like a fire that's shut up in my bones. It's like a passion that's burning in my soul. It's running wild and I'm losing all control. I gotta let it out, I gotta let it out, I gotta let it out. I gotta let it out.
Hey, hope you see Nashville family. Pastor James here, and if you're watching this, you're going, why is this guy on the screen? Well, I'm going to explain this to you. It is Hope You See Nashville's third birthday. We're 3 years old, and so we're having a party at the party, as that's how the Americans say it. We're having a party at the barn. I gotta say my R's right, my R's right. We're having a party at the barn, and so we're not able to live stream that service because our cameras don't reach out onto the forecourt, or they don't reach out onto the lawn, I'm afraid. So instead of that, what we're going to do is we're going to throwback. We're going to do a worship room that we're so very proud of when we first started Hope You See Nashville, and then we're going to go into one of Dustin's first messages that he preached in the Bunny Barn, which is still relevant today. So tune in, and next time you're with us, we'll be able to celebrate again. We'll maybe, I don't know how we'll do any prizes or anything like that. I don't know, we'll figure out a way to keep you included. But we're so glad that you're joining us. Please enjoy this throwback and celebrate with us for our 3rd birthday. We're so glad that you're able to stay with us, and we couldn't have done it without you. We love you guys, and enjoy.
We need you to come, hey, yeah. We need you here, Lord, right here with us. Won't you show yourself here, right now, right here, oh God. Spirit of God, Spirit of God, come. Spirit of God, come. Spirit of God, come. So come right now, Spirit of God. Come right now, Spirit of God. Come right now, Spirit of God. Like a wildfire, like a wildfire. Come right now, Spirit of God, where we are. Well, come right now, Spirit of God, yeah. Come right now, Spirit of God. Like a wildfire, yeah, like a wildfire. This is my heart's cry, like a forest bare and dry. Let a spark become a flame, and let that flame consume my life. I wanna be so close, feel the heat inside my bones. I wanna know your heart of grace, and look into your eyes of mine. Yeah. So come right now, Spirit of God. Come right now, Spirit of God. Oh, won't you come? Come right now, Spirit of God. Like a wildfire, like a wildfire. This is my heart's cry, yeah, yeah. Like a forest bare and dry. Let a spark become a flame, and let that flame consume my life. I wanna be so close, and feel the heat inside my bones. I wanna know your heart of grace, and look into your eyes of mine. So come right now, Spirit of God, yeah. Come right now, Spirit of God. Come right now, Spirit of God. Like a wildfire, like a wildfire. Uncontainable wildfire, uncontainable love. Oh, I cannot escape it, and I can't get enough. I need more of your presence. You are all that I want. Uncontainable wildfire, uncontainable love. So come right now, Spirit of God, won't you come? Come right now, Spirit of God. Come right now, Spirit of God. Like a wildfire, like a wildfire, like a wildfire, like a wildfire. Like a wildfire, like a wildfire, like a wildfire, like a wildfire, yeah. Come and burn, oh. Come in all your grace, come in all your power. Come in all your our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. Yes, He is. Sing it out, how great is our God. How great is our God. Oh, sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. Sing it again, how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. Come on, you're the name above all names. Yes, you are. You are worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing, how great is our God. Come on. You're the name above all names. You're the name above all names. You are worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing, how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. We believe there's no one like you, so we declare now, we're going to declare your greatness. We're going to declare your power. There is none like you. There's none like you. There's none like you. Oh God. You're so holy and worthy are you, God. Holy and worthy are you, God. 'Cause you are holy, holy, holy. And you are worthy, worthy, worthy. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. Yes, you are holy, holy, holy. And you are worthy, worthy, worthy. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. Beyond the galaxies and stars, oh, what our minds can comprehend. The one that time cannot contain. You fascinate us. A God who came down as a lamb, was sacrificed to set us free, is still the Lion no man can tame. You fascinate us. worthy, worthy. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. And you are holy, holy, holy. And you are worthy, worthy, worthy. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. You overcame hell and the grave, so even death has lost its sting. Now resurrection's in our veins. You fascinate us, yeah, yeah. And you are holy, holy, holy. And you are worthy, worthy, worthy. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. Yes, you are holy, yes, and you are holy, holy, holy. And you are worthy, worthy, worthy. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. Yeah, yeah. Let everything, all that has breath, let every voice shout out His praise. For all will see the coming King. Let all creation stand amazed. Let everything, all that has breath, let every voice shout out His praise. For all will see the coming King. Let all creation stand amazed. 'Cause you are holy, holy, holy. And you are worthy, worthy, worthy. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. You're so holy. Yes, you are holy, holy, holy. And also worthy, worthy, worthy. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. I have seen no one whose fire burns in me. Yeah. You are so much more than my heart could ever dream. Why would I dream of anything else? You're set apart as holy. You alone, you alone. We set you apart as holy. You alone, only. You are the one and only. You are all. We set you apart. You are holy. You are holy. We set you apart. You are holy. We set you apart. One and only. One and set you apart, you are holy. We set you apart, the one and only. There's no one like you, God. No one else can bring healing. You are peace, your light, everlasting. You are peace, and you are light forevermore. You are peace, you are life everlasting. Oh God. You bring peace, 'cause you are life, so much life forevermore. So we breathe you in right now. We breathe you in right now. We breathe in your healing. We breathe in your peace. So I speak peace, peace. So come into the room. I speak peace, peace over you right now. And I speak life, life to come into the room. I speak life, life over you. Oh, I speak peace, peace to come into the room. I speak peace, peace over you. And I speak life, so much life to come into the room. I speak life, life over you. Yeah. So much life over you right now. And I speak hope, hope to come into the room. I speak hope, hope to live again. And I speak joy, so much joy to come into your rooms. I speak joy, joy over you. Yes, I speak hope, hope to come into the room. I speak hope, hope over you. And I speak joy, joy to come into the room. I speak joy, joy over you. Oh, so much joy and hope and peace and life, Lord. Yeah. 'Cause I've seen your freedom, and I know your power, and I know that time and time again you have come through. And I've seen your healing, and I know your fire. So I'm asking you to come and flood the room. 'Cause I've seen your freedom, and I've seen your power, and I know that time and time again you have come through. And I've seen your healing, and I know the fire. So I'm asking you to come and flood the room. So I speak peace, peace to come into your room. I speak peace, peace over you. And I speak life, life right now to come into the room. I speak life, life over you. Yes, I speak life, life over you. Yes, I speak life, life over you. Shout Jesus from the mountains, Jesus in the streets, Jesus in the darkness over every enemy, and Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus. Shout Jesus from the mountains, Jesus in the streets, Jesus in the darkness over every enemy, Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus. Shout Jesus from the mountains, and Jesus in the streets, and Jesus in the darkness over every enemy, and Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus. Your name is power, your name is healing, your name is life. Break every stronghold, shine through the shadows, burn like a fire. Your name is power, your name is power, your name is healing, your name is life. Break every stronghold, shine through the shadows, burn like a fire.
I really want to be an encouragement to you today. This is maybe a hard message. Actually, I feel like it is a hard message because it was a hard one for me to hear. I feel God always speaks it to you before you speak it to others. And so this was probably one of the more challenging ones for me. And well, I'll just tell you, as I was asking the Lord about you last week, we talked about the scripture. It says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it?" And realize that we have to get some new lenses on because we respond out of how we perceive God to be. And so I felt like this first part of the year, God's asking us, would you start putting new lenses on? Would you start giving people new lenses to see? And really, they're not new lenses. They're really lenses of old that we've had removed from us. And I feel like sometimes put blinders on and didn't even know because it's the way we're raised. And so I remember talking to my father-in-law one time, and I was like, just reading the word, and there was so much revealing of God. God was just revealing himself to me through his word, and I'm overwhelmed. And I went and talked to my father-in-law. He just started laughing, and which he does quite often when I bring him, some of that stuff. But the reason was because he said, it's funny. He said, you know why? He said, because you're reading the scripture for what the scripture says, not what hundreds of years of moving a little bit off the mark has taught us. Because what happens is we'll take scripture and in the very pure form of what God intended it to be, it will be taught and spoken in the context of the culture and in the context of the time. And then someone will take it off just a little bit. And then a generation is raised up, and then they start to just take it off just a little bit. And then they go up and then they just take it off just a little bit. And what started out here ends up here by the time I learn about it. And so sometimes we have to dig through hundreds of years of, and even thousands of years of maybe men's opinions. And maybe some of them had good intent, but maybe it was somebody who was a historian who wanted to lean on history, but was willing to leave something else out or not dive into something else because they wanted to bring a point of the historical side of it. And a lot of times throughout history, we know there's been movements of faith, which have been incredible. We had a faith movement that really introduced to us, again, the idea of healing, life, finances, prosperity. And for a long time, we were raised that the best way to be spiritual is to have nothing. Have no money, have no ideas. You're not allowed to have ideas because I am your spiritual guide. I am your pastor. I'm the only one who knows the word. Because for a long time, they would keep the Bible to themselves, and the people didn't have Bibles to read. They didn't have, before the printing press, nobody had their own Bibles. And so one man could stand up and be able to say, this is how church goes, to where I'm the professional and you're not. So you have no responsibility except for come in and learn from me. And then you go out and kind of do your life and then come back in, learn from me. And it became a very professional thing that you paid people to do. But here's the thing. We have to undo some of this, because even one of the reasons I had a little bit of a hard time, and I was very honest with our staff this week, is I'm a little nervous to introduce you as pastors. One of the reasons is not because I don't believe in pastoral position. It's because I believe that there is a function of shepherding, but that's because of what's in somebody. The stage is not what dictates who's a shepherd. So you're up here, and that means you're the only person in this place that shepherds. And so as we start getting into this, we have to create realms of safety, especially in our culture. We have to create bumpers, and that's why it's been difficult, because we haven't even hardly known each other, and yet we establish leaders in the church who don't know either. And so they're just always trying to keep bumpers of people who don't really know each other but might give their opinions every once in a while. But when you have mothers and fathers in the church, the job is to empower each other to be able to be all that God has called you to be and watch the giftings come out. Because really, the pastors are just supposed to equip a body to do the work. It's actually, you are the professionals. To the world, you're supposed to be it. You're learning, you're gaining, you're walking out with this. And the hard thing is, when I say we have pastors, a lot of times people will say, well, then they'll do the work. It's their thing now. And so I guess they're going to do everything. No, they're not. I remember Pastor Mark and Darlene, one of the things Pastor Mark said when he came on, they had a lot of pastors, and one of their pastors was a care pastor, but he said, why do we have a pastor of love? He's like, isn't that their job? To love each other and to take care of each other, and to, when we have a need, we learn how to take care of each other and speak into it. And yeah, it does not remove that we need pastors to be able to help guide us, but it's guiding. What do you guide? You only guide something that's moving. So we all have to be moving forward, realizing I have to take responsibility for this, and there's things that I'm supposed to be and do, and that's not what's been put in us over the years. What's been put us in over the years is that we come in, we sit in a room, we listen to somebody talk, and we're like, well, that was good. And we say hi to a few people, and then we go, and we almost, most of the time, don't think about it the rest of the week. And I'm going to do everything to shatter that. And sometimes to really shift something, it's hard in this service sometimes, because it's like, who's going to lead worship? We know, but you don't always know. And you come in, you're like, where's Dustin? And you're like, Dustin's down here on his knees with his son. Like, I thought he led worship. No, some people think that I'm, when Randall and Desiree first came in, they thought I was the sound guy because I was running cables. And then they're like, then I got up and I just welcomed everybody and made a couple jokes, and they all laughed. They're like, man, that is a funny sound guy. And then I got up and sang. They're like, dang, that sound guy could sing. And then they had me come up and pray, and they're like, man, we need a sound guy like that. That guy can preach, sing. And then they came up and met me afterwards. They're like, we're really embarrassed. We did not know you were the pastor, And But it's funny because for many years, people have fought for titles, and my desire is to fight for function. Yeah. Who's God called you to be? And I don't believe people have unlocked that for you. I believe many people are walking into the church more based on fear. It's why they even got into it. Many people walked into church and followed Jesus because they were afraid not to, because we came in and said, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. And so now we have this thing that we might have even, maybe we're walking knowing Jesus is more relationship because we've heard that, but we got into it because of fear, and there's something in us that keeps getting brought up that I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell. And there's something inside of us that causes us to only respond based off of this. And so I'm asking the Lord, what lenses do I put on us for this year? What do you want to put on me? What do you want to remind me of? And this was what was one of the hardest things I've heard him say. He said, I like you more than you think I do. Maybe that doesn't blow your mind, or maybe that doesn't even affect you because it seems so simple. But if we're really honest, as you've prayed for healing or you've tried to step into anointings and giftings, many of you have stood and said, I don't. Inside, you have to really examine yourself to know this and know that you don't see everything inside of you. That's why David said, examine my heart, let me know if there's any wicked way in me. David prayed that prayer. David, a man after God's own heart, is asking him, would you examine to me? Would you examine my heart and reveal to me if there's anything wicked in me? I don't know if you pray that prayer. I don't know if you've ever prayed it. It's not a fun one to pray at all because he usually answers. And then you have to make a decision. Do I agree with that or not? What do I do with that? I already knew that. I didn't want to admit that. And it was hard because he said, I like you more than you think I do. And I thought, okay, I don't know what to do with it. And I felt him say, you've even heard people say, well, God says you have to love your enemies, but you don't have to like them. And he said, I think I could say I love you, but you almost feel like that's out of an obligation. Like I have an obligation to love you. So yeah, of course I love you, but maybe I don't like you. Maybe I wouldn't respond to you when you ask me to. Maybe I'm withholding healing a little bit, or maybe I'm not going to launch you into your destiny because maybe I'm not that good. Maybe there's something in me that doesn't like you. And I think some of you in here have been moved by that. I think some of you in here wrestle that because this week has been different for me. It has been, I've told a couple people this, even when I felt God speak that to me. I was in my car, which you just don't ask God questions in the car like that. What a dumb thing I did, It's like, I'm going to pull over now, And because it melts something inside of you that causes you to realize, I don't know if I really believe you're that kind. You know who I am, right? You know what I've done. You know what I've thought. You know what I've said. And I just felt like today I needed to remind you that he likes you more than you think he does. The reason it's hard is because what happens is we'll start to make arguments. So we'll say, well, yeah, but I don't want to go too far with grace. Or, yeah, but, but you'll follow him. What does that look like? And the problem is that if you start from those positions and then add his kindness, you're out of balance. You're still off because you cannot start with, I might go too far with grace. You cannot start with, yeah, but you don't follow the rules, because some of you have fought and fought and fought for morality when he's standing in front of you, just wanting, with wide open arms, wanting you to run into his arms and spend time with him, and you don't think you're that good. I don't think I'm good enough to be with him. I don't think I'm good enough to come before him. And listen, probably why I know this is hard for some of you to accept is because it's hard for me to preach. I love revival. I love warfare. It is hard when you are a warrior to stop for a second and to realize I need to maybe be at his feet. That he is inviting me into something and he is saying, I want to be with you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And it is hard for me to accept because I feel like if I can just do a few more rules a little bit better, then maybe I'll get to do this. Maybe if I can just be a little bit, if I just don't watch that or I don't see that, maybe then he'll be kind to me. But up to this point, guess what? He's been kind to you. Through all of this, he has been kind to you to put you in a position where maybe you're not that great, and look what we get to be a part of. I know there are things we need to do. I know there are things we need to become. But if you start out this place trying to strive and work to be something, listen, in this room, he's already calling that very thing out of you. It's already the name he calls you. He calls you how heaven sees you. He calls you that ahead of time. He did not call Gideon a warrior when Gideon became a warrior. He called him that, and Gideon had to step into the goodness and kindness of God to create something when he stepped into it ahead of time. Abraham was older. Was he probably in his 90s? When God said, I'm going to make you a father. I don't know how you'd feel about that at 90. Some of the guys are like, yeah, I'm good with it. Ladies like, that's because you're an idiot. You know, it's like, let's just be honest, you know, because they're going to have to do all the work. Like they're carrying it, they're feeding it, that's, you know, and we're all like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds fun. But Abraham did not become a father just because heaven saw him that way. Abraham had to physically engage in a process to become a father. But he called him that before he was a father. He called Saul, King Saul. He anointed him to be king. Before he was a king, before he saw it. David, he anointed him to be king before anyone saw it. Because he is so kind that he calls you who you are before you are. And some of you are trying to create something like I can impress God enough with my abilities or my goodness or my that I can follow rules. I want him to know that I'm really good before you'll even admit he's good. So we have to start from the very, very level. We have to start realizing that he likes you more than you think you do. So I was reading Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 through 30. And in the NIV, it says this. This is Jesus speaking. And he says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Listen to how it reads in the Passion Translation, which I highly recommend all of you get a Passion Translation, probably because I'm going to read from it a lot. Are you weary, carrying a heavy burden? Then come to me. I will refresh your life, for I am your oasis. Simply join your life with mine. Learn my ways, and you'll discover that I'm gentle, humble, easy to please. You will find refreshment and rest in me, for all that I require of you will be pleasant and easy to bear. I'm just telling you right now, I have in this room, there are voices arguing with that. Jesus said it. I'm just reading something. I'm just reading. Here's the red words. And some of you have a hard time with it because the very first thing you do when we say he's easy to please, the very first thing that comes into your mind is that you're going to go too far with this. It's so difficult for us to realize that I find rest in him. And most people who have come into Christianity have not started out from a position of rest. You know, in the very beginning that God established a Sabbath. It says for 6 days he worked and he created. On the 6th day he created man, and on the 7th day he rested. Here's the powerful part about that. You were created on the 6th day, and the first thing you opened your eyes to was rest. The first thing he did not do with you was say, hey, today I'm going to create man. You open your eyes, and he goes, let's get to work. That's not what he did. He works first. He laid the foundations of the earth. He already has the things that you need in front of you. They are already there. The problem is that we're so focused on the things that we forgot the creator of all things. We forgot that he was good enough to already create it. He's already created the resources you need. He's already died for the healing that you need, for the salvation that you need. And we act sometimes like I can just be a little bit better to get it. But he offers it, and he doesn't say, if you can live up to this, then you can come be with me and it'll be easy. He says the only way this is going to be easy is because you're going to partner with someone who has already overcome the world. You're going to link arms with somebody who's going to do something beyond your abilities. He's going to take you way beyond anything you could ever imagine. And for some of us, it's hard because we'll say, well, I still fight things. And he says, you will have trials in this world, but do not fear. Why? Because I have already overcome and you've linked arms with me. So this is something that's going to cause you to stop for a minute and realize the very first thing he has for me when I opened my eyes was rest. The very first day, we just got to be with him. So I'm not saying there's not going to be work. I'm not saying there's not going to be things we need to do and get done. I'm saying that we cannot start from a position of not just being with him. First thing he did with the disciples was he said, he called them to himself, and then he said, I called you to be with me. Then he said, then you'll go heal the sick, raise the dead, and proclaim the kingdom of God is near. Jobs won't let you rest. Culture never tells you to rest. Family responsibilities cause us not to be able to rest. But God demands it. This is not about a physical laying down. Rest equals trust. Trust says, I know that what we're working on, I cannot accomplish without the hand of God. You working nonstop to create everything means you know you can do it without him. Rest implies I can take a break because I know I'm not the one who accomplishes all of this on my own. So he's asking us to Selah and pause, but this is what culture says. I wrote down 3 quotes from culture. It says, one of them says, I've got a dream that's worth more than my sleep. Another one said, things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. I think that was George Washington or something. I'm just kidding. It didn't say who it was. I'm just saying. He tweeted it. Henry Rollins said this. Listen to this. This is just how this is culture speaking to you. This is the grind. If you have an idea of what you want to do in your future, you must go at it with almost monastic obsession. Be it music, the ballet, or just a basic degree. You have to go at it single-mindedly and let nothing get in your way. Fight for number 1, right? The reason I'm just telling you that is because most of you already know that. You go to work every day, trying to pay off a house, trying to get things done. It puts so much weight on you, and all the things that are happening, you're trying to do more. I want to be more. I want to get ahead in life. I want my kids to do good. I want schooling. I want. And so we're pursuing all these things, and yet we're exhausted. We're emotionally exhausted. We don't have time for the people of God because I have too many things I have to do. I don't have time to build a community. I have too many things I have to do. And then God says, hey, I want you to be together. The commandment says this. Number one commandment was love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. What's the second greatest commandment? Huh? Love your neighbor as yourself. Hard to do, and I don't have time for them. Hard to do, and I don't have time for them. Our culture is nonstop 24/7. We hustle, we grind, we keep up with the Joneses. The average iPhone user touches their phone 2,617 times a day. We have social media envy. We have a comparison game. We're longing for bigger platforms, more money, better faces, better bodies, larger influence, all while sitting for hours on our phones watching the highlight reel from others' lives. I wrote that down. I was like, I got to write that down. I'll never remember that. You can appear to be a successful American Christian while failing to be a disciple of Jesus. Psalm 37, 1-7, again in the Passion Translation says this. Actually, don't put it up, Drew. Let me just read it. I want you to hear this. Don't follow after the wicked ones or be jealous of their wealth. Don't think for a moment they're better off than you. They and their short-lived success will soon shrivel up and quickly fade away like grass clippings in the hot sun. Keep trusting in the Lord and do what is right in his eyes. Fix your heart. Listen, what is it? Fix your heart on the promises of God, and you will be secure, feasting on his faithfulness. Make God the utmost delight and pleasure of your life. Just stop for a second. Just ask yourself this. Have you made God the utmost delight and pleasure of your life? It's hard, isn't it? When I tell people hey, you should just start out your morning with worship. Like, man, I do not have time. I'm busy. Everybody we talk to, how's it going? Busy. What are you doing today? I don't know, I'm busy. I've been guilty of it. I'm still guilty of it. I've talked about, I told Gina, I have to stop and spend some time with him. Gina knows, she'll come to me, she's like, you doing all right? I was like, yeah, I'm good. She's like, when's the last time you sit down at the piano by yourself? I was like, it's been about a week. She's like, goodbye. She's like, go to church by yourself. You don't stay here. Get along with God. Because she knows that as I start to set myself apart, he becomes my pleasure. Ministry's not my pleasure. Listen, I'm just flat out telling you, money's not my pleasure. Money is not a pleasure to me. People come in, they're like, you take offerings so you can. Listen, right now, I don't even take a salary from this church. 0. I didn't think I'd ever tell you that. The reason I'm telling you that, you know why? Because I'm not gunning for your money. You don't have to sit here and go, that he's trying to build something for himself. Are you crazy? We paid for this. We did it. Our ministry did it. Our friends did it. The ones who came with us, they sat in here and did this. You know why? Because he is our pleasure, and we said if we can build a place for him, he'll be able to touch many, many lives through this place. Because I knew the people he would gather, you've been such a gift to us. And I knew when we came into this room that you would have things that I needed to sometimes sit on the front row and learn. The gift of watching Steve and Irma play a dice game, we did dice together where you just roll and Irma just destroyed Steve. And I was like, that's a gift in my life right there. Just watching Irma own Steve and be like, yeah. She dropped the mic and I was like, where'd that mic come from? And she just carries it around. I don't know. It's But you know what happens? I'm starting to meet people. Steve will text me through the day, and he's just like, something that reminds me, take pleasure in God. Take pleasure in God. He's always talking about how just God's doing something in the people, and he'll mention a scripture to me, and it's just like, refocus. No matter what you're doing right now, refocus. Take pleasure in him. Make God the utmost delight and pleasure of your life, and he will provide for you what you desire the most. Give God the right to direct your life, and as you trust him along the way, you'll find he pulled it off perfectly. He will appear as your righteousness, as sure as the dawning of a new day. He will manifest as your justice, as sure and strong as the noonday sun. Quiet your heart in his presence and pray. Keep hope alive as you long for God to come through for you. And don't think for a moment that the wicked in their prosperity are better off than you. In this room this year, I really want us to make sure that our lenses are set, that he is the desire and pleasure of our lives. It seems so simple and so basic, but it becomes near impossible when we are running at such a fast pace. And life has us on a treadmill that causes us to not be able to pause in his presence and ask, what are you doing in the earth? So I wrote down 3 areas that I'm going to go through. This will take me 10 minutes and I'll be done. I just want to go through 3 areas. They're really quick. Number 1, I feel like to do that, you have to enjoy the journey. I think we're trying to get to a destination and we're always thinking about the final thing. So we're thinking through the process, and I even understand of sickness and some of the things we've walked through in our lives. We're not even looking for him in the journey. We're only worried about the destination. We're not even thinking about what kind of story is God creating when I'm walking through this financial process or I lost my job. It's not that God did it. It's that the Bible says that he will make all things work together for the good of those who love him. Hard for us because where is that? Well, I don't see it. But we put it in such a time frame that I'm always looking for the destination. And so people who talk to me, they're almost always destination minded and never journey minded. It's like the kids who are constantly saying, when will we be there? I was like, I'm going to push you out of the car. I'll stop first, but you're leaving, because we still have 17 hours left. We've been driving for 15 minutes. But they don't enjoy the journey. Why? Because they're not interested in the beautiful mountains. They're not interested in being able to see the scenery. All they want to do is get there. And as soon as we're done, now what are we doing next? What do you have for me next, God? I took on this thing. What do you have for me next, God? What do you have for me next, God? And I feel like God's like, I just wanted to walk with you for a while. No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to pause and just walk. I want to do something. I want to show something. I want to be on a big stage. I want to sing. I want to travel. I want to write songs for the masses. And God's like, I actually want you just to sit and sing to me for a while. And that's so hard for us. It's so hard to pause and enjoy the journey. But here's the thing is he loves the journey. He wants, listen, this is kind of hard for us. He wants to be able to be driving the car. And he hates backseat drivers. But he loves the journey. Psalm 23, I want to read it from the Passion Translation. Go ahead and put that one up, Drew, because I didn't type this one out. Listen to what this says. The Lord is my best friend and my shepherd. Pause. Struggle, isn't it? Man, it is hard because people are like, are you a friend of God? I remember when Friend of God, Israel came out with I'm a friend of God. There are churches that would not sing it because you can't be a friend of God. You can't be that close to him. But Jesus looked at his disciples and he said, I call you friend. And he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. I only do what I see the Father do, and that means the Father calls him friend. You're my friends. We don't like that. Okay, maybe you do, but maybe I'm the only one struggling with that part. I don't know. I'm not struggling with it as much as I used to. The Lord is my best friend, but he's not just a best friend. I don't treat him like just a friend. He's also a shepherd. I know he's a king. I know he's a warrior. But the Lord is my best friend, my shepherd. I always have more than enough. He offers a resting place for me in his luxurious love. His tracks take me to an oasis of peace, the quiet brook of bliss. That's where he restores and revives my life. He opens before me pathways to his pleasure and leads me along in his footsteps of righteousness so that I can bring honor to his name. Lord, even when your path takes me through the valley of deepest darkness, fear will never conquer me. For you already have. You remain close to me and lead me through it all the way. Your authority is my strength and my peace. The comfort of your love takes away my fear. I'll never be lonely, for you are near. You become my delicious feast, even when my enemies dare to fight. You anoint me with the fragrance of your Holy Spirit. You give me all I can drink of you until my heart overflows. So why would I fear the future? For your goodness and love pursue me all the days of my life. Then afterward, when my life is through, I'll return to your glorious presence to be forever with you. I love that he's walking with us on a journey. You may not see it. Some of you in this room, you read The Pursuit of God, A.W. Tozer, great book. You've read God Chasers, great book. But you forgot he first chased you. It's hard, but he's chasing you. He's pursuing you. The reason you're in this room is because nobody comes to him unless the Holy Spirit's leading. You're being led into a journey and into a relationship that gets to be something more than going through a list of rules. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. How many times have you been able to say that? Have you ever gotten a report of death and it caused this fear just to grip you? When my grandpa died, he was the first of my immediate family to pass away, and we went to the funeral. I was in Kansas City at the time, and I did not realize it, but after that funeral, I went home. I did not realize it, but I had a grip of fear of death. And I didn't realize that's what it was, but I started having anxiety. I started having panic attacks in revival on the platform. I've never told this story publicly. Gina knows. At the time, I wouldn't even tell my in-laws. I told nobody. I didn't tell my worship team. But I would get to the point where I would start thinking I was having a heart attack. I'd lay in bed. I'd start having just attacks. And I did not realize what it was. And one night I was laying in bed, and I had it for a few months. They wanted to put me on Klonopin. They wanted to try to take that away. And I remember laying in bed one night, and I felt the Lord say, you know all of this is caused by fear of death, right? And I was like, what? And I remember when my grandfather passed away, it was one of those first, I think, realizations of we are just a breath. And I just started getting gripped by fear. Every time I would feel something wrong in my body, I would start to respond to it like I'm dying. And I'll never forget that night. He said, I'm going to take this away now, okay? And I remember in that moment being so free to the point of like, I probably have put myself into some positions because I don't think about like to be absent from the body is present with the Lord. Let's do this thing, And Gina's like, you might think about this a little bit, When I go to other countries, the first thing she does is look at my eyes. Now look in my eyes. You're not going to die, remember? So and if you are, tell me because we're going to up your life insurance, And so, but I remember it being gone so much. You know what it did? It did not just release me from the fear of death. It released me from the fear of man's opinion. What can you do to me if you can't kill me? What can you do when you're not afraid anymore? And that release, there was something so confident in who he is, that he's the life giver, that he's so kind, that I'm not sitting here just afraid that he's going to send me somewhere, but realize this isn't about him sending anybody anywhere. This is about me getting to walk with him today and for eternity. He's letting me walk with who I choose to walk with, and I choose to walk with him. So let's take a walk. This is going to be a journey. There's going to be some hard things, but he's with us. Number 2, rest equals trust. You have to trust his leading. Proverbs 3:5-10 says, trust in the Lord completely and do not rely on your own opinions. With all your heart, rely on him to guide you, and he will lead you in every decision you make. Say that with me. With all your heart, rely on him to guide you. And he will. He will. He will lead you wherever you go. Do you believe that? Some of you are actually walking where he's leading and you're asking where you're going. But he's out for a walk. And he lets you put your footprints inside of his. Some of you have questions you've never had. Some of you have frustrations you've never had. And don't think he's not leading you into some of those. If you're not frustrated, you're satisfied. And the opposite of frustrated, satisfied means if I'm satisfied, I don't change anything. If I have questions, I want to see something different, then I'm going to start looking for something different. And God says, I'm not trying to mess you up. I'm actually trying to expand your territory, expand your vision. The last 5 years, I've never heard so many songs written on goodness until the last 5 years. You know why? Because God is wanting to reveal his goodness. We started hearing songs like Reckless Love, and people started arguing it. Can his love be reckless? I don't know. And I remember I wrote a song, I'd love to say I'm pioneer of it, but nobody really knows and cares. But I wrote a song almost 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. And it's called Chaotic Love. And Michael W. Smith recorded it, Carrie Job sang it. And the funny thing is, I say that not to brag, I say that because Michael Farron, my producer, told me not to record that song. Because he said the church won't sing that. They won't like the word chaotic. And I was like, well, I don't care. My church sings it and they like it, So our church did it, was one of the biggest songs of the night. And the next thing you know, Michael W. Smith is like, I want to record that song. And so I stood in Michael W. Smith's live recording with Carrie Job singing it beside the producer who told me I should not put it on my album. And he leaned over and he said to me while she was singing it, he said, I told you this would never work. But God's trying to introduce the idea of this isn't just what you think it is. It's not the nice, simple little thing. You're going to have to ask some questions. And somebody came up to me and said, I don't really like the word chaotic. I don't think that it's right. I don't think he has a chaotic love. And I said, well, I didn't write it, so I would be right. I wrote it so we could have this discussion. Because he wants to expand beyond our own simple understanding of what we think he is. And the last thing I would say this, I have a lot more in that, but is number 3, don't miss the moments. Some of you are missing moments right now because you're just trying to get to the next destination and you forgot to stop and look in your own kids' eyes. I'm learning this myself. I was at Asher's basketball game last time, and I talked to him. I didn't get to go to the very first one. I was actually out on a ministry trip, and I hate that stuff. So I always talk to him like, hey, I'm gonna be at the next ones. I'm not gonna miss very many more. But the first one, I think they lost 52-4, 58-4, something like that. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to the next one. I don't think, as a dad, I'm not sure my heart can handle this, The power of it is that the next time I was there, we're all sitting up there, and every time he would do anything, if he would shoot the ball or even if he'd make a mistake or he did something good, every time he looked back just to look in my eyes, like, you like this? Is this good? I'm like, oh, I messed up. And the whole time I'm just sitting there like, I know you guys haven't scored the first half, But I didn't show up to watch you be a superstar. I didn't show up here because I thought you were going to be, an amazing basketball player. I showed up because you're my kid, and I love watching you have fun. I love watching you run the court. Yeah, I'm a parent. Yeah, I want to beat some other parents up. It's like, I get it, And I'm human. I'm sorry. I wrestle it. I fight. Gina's like, put your earbuds in. But he just keeps looking back, look in my eyes. And I think sometimes we just don't stop and look in each other's eyes. We don't pause for a minute and just hold our kid. Or we don't pause for a minute and just think about the good things. If anything is good and pure, think about this. And I think he's trying to refocus you, and he's trying to say you've missed so many moments because you're just rushing to get to the next spot. That's why it was really hard for us during worship today when James is he just pauses for a minute. We're thinking like, what's next? Really hard to even just take a moment and just go, you know what? In the silence, God, thank you. I never get a moment to pause, and they're giving me one, and you couldn't even take that one. Remember the moments. Our friend Dave Balestri told us, he's in Australia, and he made the statement. He said, my wife told me one time, their daughter, I think, was 8. I can't remember the story exactly. I'll do the best. And he said, my wife came to me. They had moved to New Zealand. They were in Australia. And he said, your daughter's battling depression. He's like, she's not battling depression. She's 8 years old. She said, have you looked into her eyes lately? So he said, I went in the room, and I looked in her eyes, and I was like, oh my goodness. So he said, I went and prayed about it, and I felt God say, ask her if she hears a voice that says, I think it was, do you love me? Or was it, and she said something else, maybe like, I'm dumb or something like that, like just a voice speaking to her. So he went, you remember this, Adrian? I think you guys were there too. And he said, he went to her and he said, hey, do you hear voices that tell you these things? And she goes, do you hear the voice too? And he said, no, honey, I don't. And he said, but God told me today that I'm supposed to be a louder voice and that we're going to silence the voice of that thing because none of that's true. And we're going to pray in your room. And we realized that's where it was happening. She'd go and she'd be isolated. And that thing could just talk to her. Voices could just talk to her and tell her, you're not that great. You're not good. You're not a good kid. And it would just talk to her. And he said, had been so busy, I didn't stop and look in her eyes. Don't miss the moments. You can read this for yourself. I'm not going to read all this. I'm just going to read the end of it. Matthew, you should write it down or take a picture of it or something. Matthew chapter 6, verses 25 through 34. Look it up in the Passion Translation or look it up in the Message, I think is what I'm putting it up here. I just want to end with this. And I want to have the worship team come up. We're just going to end with a song, man. You guys come up. Listen, he says this is the scripture most of you know is seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness and all these things will be added to you. So if you're seeking those things, it's hard because you're seeking to add them to yourself. And he's saying, if you'll seek me, all these things will be added to you. So this is about what is your pursuit? So this is what it says in the Message in Matthew chapter 6, verses 25 through 34. I love this. It says, if God gives such attention to the appearance of wildflowers, this is towards the end, it says, most of which are never even seen, don't you think he'll attend to you, take pride in you, and do his best for you? What I'm trying to do here is to get you to relax, to not be so preoccupied with getting so you can respond to God's giving. Did you hear that? It's hard because we're trying to get things all the time, and God's trying to give them to you. But he can't give them to you unless he knows they're not going to grab your attention. That's the hardest part, isn't it? It's not about not having money. It's about if he gives you money, will it grab your attention? Will it now hold your gaze? If he gives you the stuff you want, will it hold your gaze? Or will you be so locked in him, he can give you everything because he knows none of those things hold your gaze. None of those things grab your attention. And then I love this. This is what it says. It says, people who don't know God and the way he works fuss over these things, but you know both God and how he works. Woo. Steep your life. Memorize this. Steep your life. Dip your life. My mother and father love tea. Let it sit for a little while. Stop for a minute. Let it soak. If you dip tea in and pull it out, it does nothing. It's just nasty water at that point. You know what I mean? So let it sit, let it simmer for a minute, let it get darker, let it sit for a minute. Don't be afraid because when you pull it out, steep your life in God reality, God initiative, in God provisions. Don't worry about missing out. You'll find all your everyday human concerns will be met. Give your entire attention to what God is doing right now, and don't get worked up about what may or may not happen tomorrow. God will help you deal with whatever hard things come up when the time comes. Listen, everything through this scripture, when he says, hey, don't worry about your food, get outside and look up. Look at the birds. He said, don't worry about your clothes. Get outside and look at the flowers. What he's trying to do is get you out of your box, get you with no ceiling and no limits. He's trying to get you out of the room and get you outside to realize all this stuff he has created. It is beyond your day-to-day limit. He's taking you out of the box, things only he can control. So stop and breathe. Look in his eyes. Live in the moment. Don't be worried about tomorrow. Let tomorrow worry about itself. The enemy is a pro at weapons of mass distraction. Weapons of mass distraction. Your biggest hindrance to joy is not living in the moment. Concern over what may happen tomorrow or where we need to be next causes us to not be able to enjoy or be in joy in the moment. Steep yourself in God reality, God initiative, God provision, not the other way around. Don't ask for his provision till you know who he is, till you get the reality, till you've sat with him for a minute. Because if you don't have his ideas, you'll blow the money. Don't try to get his initiative and what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And he goes, you don't know me yet. Jesus said, I only do what I see the Father do. So you can't do until you know. Just sit for a minute. Pause for a minute. Some of you have done so many amazing things in your life. You've held positions of authority and you've done things. And God is saying, I'm going to give you a new level of strength. I want to give you a new level of a wind behind your back. But the only way that can happen is now, because some of you have been burned out by it. He says, hope. Those who hope in the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not get weary. They shall walk and they will not faint. Where are those people? I want Hope UC Nashville to be a place where people come in and don't just say, oh, I got healed. That's awesome. Like, oh man, I got a financial breakthrough. That's great. Hey, I met some friends. That's awesome. But you know what we did? What we did was we just learned to hope in him. And when we hoped in him, this place was filled with his presence. And when you walked in, you were introduced to the one who walks daily with you, who does not just come and meet with you in a church service. I don't want to be a professional church service. I want to be a place and a home for the presence of God, where when people come in, we're not coming in saying, oh man, it takes a couple songs for them to get warmed up. Are you crazy? When we come in, it's just like, woohoo! Like, well, look what God did. Like, we're here. This is awesome. Like, we came in, look, the celebration of God. It doesn't mean we're not walking through things, but even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. You are beside me, so I don't have to worry because my attention is locked on you. I have been steeped. I have been held. I want this to be the teacup. So weird. I shouldn't have said that. I want this to be the teacup. That's the only thing I can think of, man. What else is steep? I don't know. You can tell me. I want to be the place where people can come. They may not even stay. Are you okay with that? We may not have 3,000 people. We're not going to be able to write a book about it like, oh man, we added 1,000 people every year. No, you know what they might have had to do? God might have told them, in this city, I have a place where you can go and dip. Where you can go and steep around people who will protect you, that you get to experience the presence of God. This is a safe place for you to experience the presence of God, and you get to be steeped in God reality, God initiative, and God provision. You get to see who he is, you get to be activated by his presence, and you get to have provision back you up, because what you need to accomplish, you can't on your own. So this should be a joy for us. When you start to see who he is, this should be an overwhelming joy for you. So I want us to stand up, and to do this, just last, we're gonna sing this, we'll see that same song you ended with. And The reason this is because this is what you need to walk out with. I want this reality on you. And I want you to have the reality of how good he is, his goodness and his mercy. And when I can stop for a moment and remember it and declare it, then through this week, you can do the same thing. And that means you're redefined by God reality, God initiative, and God provision. I can rest in it. I can trust him in this process. So Jesus, let this message sink into who we are today. We want to be steeped in the reality of who you are, to know you in a greater way, to see you in a greater way. Let this be a place of your presence and your glory, that we might have a greater reality so we can take on your initiative in this city. We do not want to take on initiative unless we're walking with you. We do not want to take on initiative unless we know who you are. And then as we step into it, that your provision would actually come up behind and overwhelm every person in this room. Let healing flow through their homes. Even now, let them know the reality of who you are in their bodies, in their hearts, in their minds. Let it be the defining